So in yesterday's video, I covered very briefly and kind of unopinionated this breaking news story that's happening here in Canada. For those who don't know, there has been a narrative that there was a lot of unmarked graves buried of Indigenous children buried under government churches or residential schools and that sort. I'm sure you've heard the term residential schools in the past. It's been really, really big. And one really kind of, I don't want to say sketchy, but sort of one weird fact about this whole thing is that the government or officials who aren't Indigenous haven't actually been able to go on the land and excavate and find these, graves that they were able to use through ground penetrating LiDAR or radar detection methods to see if it's actually graves. But now they've actually done some excavation, and it turns out that the government's been lying about this stuff. Now, I'm not here to point blame. I'm not here to pick a side because it is a very touchy subject. Has the Canadian government been, it treated Indigenous people improperly over the years? Yeah, like that, our home and native land. Like, it's very noticeable that Canada and the Canadian government did some sketchy stuff way back in the day. Have you and I done that? I don't know. Like, I haven't. I hope you haven't. I hope you're not a bad person. But I'm just saying that the history of Canada, not off to a great start. So has this actual story been out of the realm of possibilities? Well, we're finding out that it's been now labeled as a hoax, and you have mainstream media organizations that are retracting this long-term narrative that's been going on for years about Indigenous children that were buried under these residential schools and churches by the Canadian government. Holy crap. Welcome back to another video, everybody. I couldn't start off with a more impactful emphasis on this story because this is like just shattering so many people's worlds here, and I want to do my best to tread lightly and be as empathetic as I possibly can, because just because they've excavated one area and it turns out there were no children remains doesn't mean that that's the case everywhere. But it is making people think, well, it could be the case everywhere. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps grow the channel. We're up against government suppression, YouTube suppression, Trudeau's own personal algorithm. I mean, things are crazy here, and we're fighting a behemoth of a narrative and a behemoth corporation. So yeah, a like and subscribing with post notifications is a great way to show free support. I want to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. The best way to not only protect yourself online, but increase your internet experience is with Private Internet Access, which is why we've teamed up and offering my subscribers, you viewers, 83% off. We know that Justin Trudeau openly admires China's dictatorship, which is why he's censoring the internet, which is why he's doing all of these things to make vehicles not a part of protests. And he's just basically hammering us Canadians here, and you can't get a deal anywhere. But you can now with Private Internet Access, 83% off for my subscribers and my viewers. And for those who don't know what a VPN is, it's a way to encrypt and mask your IP address, your digital footprint online. And it not only protects you, but it actually increases your experience by allowing you to view content on streaming services or even the news for us Canadians that are worried about censorship. And you just can't do that otherwise. You can't watch Facebook news or view Facebook news without masking your IP address now because Trudeau is banning that. You can't watch your favorite TV shows on Netflix or Hulu or Crave or Disney Plus, even though our government has told us to cancel Disney Plus. You can't watch certain content in Canada because it's only available in America. So the best way to do that is with Private Internet Access. The link for that is down in the description below, as well as the pinned comment. I'm going to walk you through very quickly what you're going to come across. When you click on the link, this is what you're going to see. Mr. Sunshine Baby's #1 choice, VPN. And when you click get 83% off, it brings you to a few different options. The best one is smack dab in the middle, 2 years plus 4 months free. Again, the link for that is down in the description below. Thank you so much, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. Without further ado, let's take a look at this story here. So first I want to start off with Lauren Southern, who she is a YouTube personality. She's got interviewed with Fox on Fox with Tucker Carlson before he left Fox. And this is very interesting. I think she's Canadian from Vancouver. UBC cancels event featuring speaker who believes mass graves at residential schools are a hoax. This is in 2021. And now, this is just from a couple of days ago. Breaking: residential school mass grave turned out to be underground rocks. No bodies have been found. So you've seen a really big pushback on anybody. And this is why I don't want to farm likes, but chances are that videos like this are going to get downvoted because of the sensitivity of it. And people say, no, it's not a hoax. I'm not saying it's a hoax. I'm not saying it's not a hoax. I'm just providing articles and bringing everything together and formulating the story. So please like the video so we don't get mass downvoted by any sort of haters or trolls like that. Because again, the government and the media have been saying one thing for so long, and now it's turned out to be the opposite, which seems to be a culture thing lately these days. And so people are very conflicted in their minds, like, well, I've been told this for so long, and now I have to go with this new thing. And it all just seems sketchy. And I'm getting this type of news from like YouTube videos and Reddit, but it's not on CBC, so it's probably not true. And that's the reality of what we're fighting against in modern day. Is if it's not on CBC, if it's not on CTV, it's not on mainstream media, then it must be not true. And you just ignore all the facts because it's just sketchy. It's just a Mr. Sunshine YouTube video. And who is this guy? And why does he have the information, but CBC doesn't? That's a valid question. Reality is they don't want to retract their statements. They want to stick with a narrative. We've seen it time and time and time again. If the past 4 years haven't been a very clear indication of that, then as they say in the South, bless your heart. Okay, now let's go on to the next one. So Keenan Back, who is part of the Counter Signal media, independent media here in Canada, actually said this on Twitter. He said, not finding a pile of children's bones under residential school is good, actually. And I would agree with that, as much as people have been mourning and grieving that process of this theory that has yet to be proven until just recently, and it hasn't been proven. It got, in fact, debunked, at least in one area. It's a good thing. It means that children have not been buried there, which is fantastic news, because that would be a horrible atrocity. So that's like the best possible news, is the atrocity didn't happen. So anyone who's upset at the debunking of this, do you really want this atrocity to have happened? Or do you think that, oh, it's been proven that this atrocity has not actually occurred? Isn't that fantastic news? I mean, that's got to be excellent news for anyone hearing this. And it would be freaking weird if you heard it and were like, no, I'm still sad that it didn't happen. What? That's a weird thing to say. So here we have Jack Pozo, who is a very big individual here on Twitter. Senior editor for humanevents.com, Navy Intel vet, says, breaking: unmarked graves discovery at Manitoba residential school turns out to be hoax. No bodies have been found, only rocks. And as we go down the comment section, you'll see another hoax exposed, but they already burned down churches in retaliation. Now what? Culture warriors. Trudeau remembers the green screen. And we're going to take a look at this photo next, where Trudeau went to an unmarked grave and stared at a pile of rocks and, said his prayers and all that stuff. So just because it's been disproven and debunked in one area, again, I want to reiterate, due to the sensitivity of the issue, it doesn't mean that that's the case everywhere, because it's not just in Manitoba. It's in like Kelowna, Kamloops, BC, Alberta. It's just like it's everywhere across Canada, apparently. So just because it's been disproven in one or maybe a couple areas does not mean, again, like I need to reiterate with so much emphasis, that that's not the case everywhere. So continuing to approach this topic with empathy is probably the best way, unless you're just not a good person. I know I sound like super woke and millennial newsbreaker. I'm a millennial. And so, yes, we do generally tiptoe around issues like this, because it would be horrible to offend so many people and for there to actually be remains that have been found in one area, because then you would feel like a total douchebag. And well, we want to avoid that at all costs. So even the National Post is covering this. An excavation after 14 anomalies detected at former residential school site found no evidence of graves, Manitoba chief. That's insane. But again, like as weird and counter narrative as this is, I want to say one more time, this is excellent news. There have been no remains found, which means It did not happen, at least there, which again is excellent news. And I'm reiterating and being purposeful in repetitiveness because I think people just need to hear it. The haters that need to hear it, the people that are being triggered by this, need to hear that this is actually good news. No evidence of human remains have been found during the excavation of a Catholic church basement on the site of a former Manitoba residential school. Chief Derek Nepikak of this area shared the result of the 4-week excavation in a social media video Friday. He said the outcome takes nothing away from the difficult truths experienced by our families who attended the residential schools in Pine Creek. And that's a good, powerful statement right there. It takes nothing away from the difficult truths experienced by our families. That is what needs to be remembered. So anyone who feels like this is, a victory in the sense of, the government's been lying, the media's been lying. Yeah, it seems like they were wrong. Does not give the right of way to go and gloat and make fun of people who still believe that there are children who have been buried under these churches and stuff, because it very well could have been just in different areas. I just want to say, I swear this is the last time I say it, but just approaching this with empathy is probably the best way to go. Now, in other news, segue out of that, there is a massive slander campaign happening against Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party here in Canada, who's up against Justin Trudeau. And it seems like anything Justin Trudeau does on his own, whether he opens his mouth, goes somewhere, press conference, appearance, gets heckled, anything that he does is really bringing him down in the polls. And the only way to counter that is what seems to be these slander campaigns on social media or mainstream media to the opposition, because turns out the opposition is actually pretty good. Pierre Poilievre doesn't really have any major controversies or scandals that have been found, or maybe they just don't exist. Imagine that, a politician who's kind of clean. That would be a pretty good thing, I would have to say. He's got great speech. He doesn't have a lot of ums and ahs. He looks good. Apparently people think that he's very jacked and has some good biceps. I mean, if that's what you're looking for in a leader, sure. I mean, a lot of people looked for Justin Trudeau's hair and his socks and his prince-esque type of way that he looks, his appearance. So I don't know, maybe people are into that for Canadian leaders. But anyways, let's take a look at this slander campaign here. Pierre Poilievre's summer image makeover hasn't changed two important things: his antipathy towards the media and willingness to trade in the language of online conspiracies. So they're really trying to label him as the bridge between politicians and crazy conspiracy right-wing extremists, which is not true. In fact, he's actually distanced himself very much from any sort of conspiracy theories or any sort of what would be classified as right-wing conservatism. The Conservative Party of Canada is a little bit more centrist, even I guess arguably left-leaning compared to traditional conservatism, because they, again, don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, want to get as many votes as possible and gain power, of course. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I'd love to pass the question off to you. How do you feel about our Conservative Party not being really on the right, but being a little bit more centrist or even left-leaning? Turns out it actually pisses a lot of people off. But we're not going to talk about people's opinions right now. We're going to continue reading the story. As a general rule, fighting fires with canisters of gasoline is a good way to get burned. But that lesson hasn't resonated with Pierre Poilievre or his political allies, who are busy fending off accusations that they trade in conspiracy theories by trading in yet more conspiracy theories. In the process, they may well torch some of the political goodwill they've accumulated over the summer with Poilievre's pivot to a kinder and more gentler version of himself. It's not exactly a secret that conservatism has made more room in recent years for conspiracy theories, whether they're about vaccines or this and that, the World Economic Forum, and its apparently nefarious influence over the Canadian government. But a recent fundraising email that included mention of globalist Davos elites caught the eye of Canadian press reporter. Okay, so it's kind of weird because these things right here in this sentence, right, the vaccines and the World Economic Forum, I mean, the World Economic Forum has literally bragged, Klaus Schwab has literally bragged about he's penetrated the Liberal government and Justin Trudeau and the cabinet. That's a very weird thing to say. They're not a political entity. The World Economic Forum is a private organization, either started or currently run by Klaus Schwab. And that's kind of the extent of what we know. I mean, there's a lot of world leaders that seem to attend this private organization. There's a lot of very influential people. There's a lot of very rich and wealthy people, people that make waves in the world, not people that create 5 or 10 jobs, but people that have wealth that's so insurmountable, that run the banks, that run the system, that have a say in local federal politics, that have a say in how the world works. I mean, for crying out loud, anyone who can create a product such as like a phone or a computer or devices that gets used around the entire world is a pretty powerful person. And the fact that Bill Gates is kind of tied at the hip to the world, I think it's Bill Gates, tied at the hip at the World Economic Forum, makes these appearances. It's very weird. Why is Bill Gates and then presidents and prime ministers around the world going to this thing? We've never really been able to pinpoint the exact reason, but there are breadcrumb trails. And to those who probably know a little bit more than me, are probably correcting me down in the comments right now as I'm saying this, because there's people out there that do think, and that have done more research than I have, obviously, that there are actual reasons and plans that these people all get together. So it's very weird that the mainstream media is now trying to take the narrative of saying, oh, the World Economic Forum is nothing, and anyone who thinks that it's something is just crazy and a conspiracy theorist, because that's not the reality. That's why the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, has said anyone who is a conservative here in Canada who attends the World Economic Forum or supports it to any capacity, they are gone. So that's a good thing, and you just kind of have to pick your side and pick your battle. All right. The response from Poilievre, along with the past and present Conservative MPs and its directors of communication, gin up new conspiracies about the Canadian press and its relationship with the CBC and other legacy media outlets. Trudeau's media are desperate to stop his continued downfall, he tweeted. Today, CBC's new service, CP, wrote a hit piece on me because I dared criticize the World Economic Forum, a group of multinational CEOs and powerful politicians that push their interests. I work for 4 people in this country and will bring home our democracy. I work for our people, not 4 people. Trudeau works for 4 people. Klaus Schwab and 3 minions. I work for our people in this country and will bring home our democracy without apology. That's awesome. Former CBC leader Andrew Scheer decided to join the fray and say, no wonder Trudeau wants to censor all but 4 or 5 Liberals news sources. They all coordinate in attacking Pierre Poilievre with the false headline that he tweeted, collusion. And we're seeing this more and more of this very multi-attack approach. And I have pulled the tweet up right now. Andrew Scheer shared this tweet, and they all are sharing the exact same headline on the exact same day. Poilievre's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. That was on CTV, the Toronto Star, CBC, and City News. When have you ever seen other people use the exact same headlines over and over and over again? I mean, we saw this during the heat of the pandemic. Everyone was using the exact same headlines over and over and over again. It's very, very weird. And so that's kind of where we're going to end this video. And I'd love to pass the question off to you. How does this make you feel? Are you concerned that the media is going to continue to slander the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, and the Conservative Party of Canada? Or do you think, no, it's all right, we could trust the media and the government? Love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel financially, you can do so by checking out the merch shop linked right up there. Or if you want to do something for free, which is also absolutely acceptable and highly encouraged, you can subscribe right there. If you want to continue watching videos like this, you can do so by clicking or tapping right there to watch the next upcoming video. And if you want to watch a little bit of different content, but also Canadian stuff, you can do so by clicking right up there. That's my second channel, House of Canada, also known as the House of Commons Highlights. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.